What up, everybody? Welcome back to a Blake Scholar of Magic. And today I have a deck titled Harmony. It's an Aragorn the Uniter deck, and it also has the tags enabled. And so I just put a little reminder there. It will help if you view this with your tags enabled. It will make the experience much better. So who and what is Aragorn the Uniter? Well, it's a 4-color commander. It's red, green, white, and blue. 4 colors total. It can't be played with any generic mana. You have to play 4 mana total and 1 of each colored mana to cast this. So you have to have a very good mana base. Check 1. Next, it is a legendary creature, a human noble. Okay. Whenever you cast a white spell, create a 1/1 white human soldier token. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Whenever you cast a red spell, Aragorn the Uniter deals 3 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a green spell, target creature gets 4/4 until end of turn. You can take this into a variety of ways. You can really try to maximize just having spells with all 4 colors and its mana cost. Like, for instance, a card like Omnath kind of makes me think of that. Like, all the colors at once, that would obviously be very powerful. You could kind of take your deck into that particular direction. For our purposes, though, I would say our green and red are very important for this particular deck, just because you get a little bit more value off the red, but just mostly green in general, I would say, is kind of what we're really striving for. Getting that 4/4 is pretty massive. It's bigger than a giant growth. It's just a big kind of bump to your power and toughness, so it makes Aragorn a threat. It makes your other creatures a threat. You can spread the damage out. In addition, a lot of cards synergize with big, powerful creatures, and that's kind of what led me on this road. So I don't know how familiar you are with some of the new cards from Dragonstorm Tarkir, but I guess we're going to start off with Nature's Rhythm, because this is the card that kind of popped out at me to begin with. Let me see if I can just zoom this up just a little bit. And I feel that should be big enough. Now, why Nature's Rhythm? Well, this card kind of got the wheels spinning, as some of our friends would say. And I was figuring I could just play Nature's Rhythm, find a 1-mana, mana dork, or a 1-mana creature like an Esper Sentinel, or whatever. And then if I have Aragorn on the battlefield, then I'm going to have a 9-powered Aragorn. That's really cool. Then I could basically harmonize this thing from my graveyard, and that I could basically tutor up any creature that had 9 mana cost or less for 4 additional forests. So I was like, oh, that seems pretty good. That's not too much of an investment. That's a 7-mana investment. I could get a 1-drop, and then I can get a Craterhoof Behemoth on the battlefield, or a Nyxbloom Ancient on the battlefield, or a Vorinclex, depending on what we were doing for that time and period, and what we needed to do. You could have that toolbox there. If you're not familiar, Craterhoof Behemoth is basically an overrun creature. You can see it basically gives XX and trample to all the creatures on the battlefield. It counts how many you have, and then that's how it dictates the power and toughness that it gives to each creature when it hits the battlefield. So it can deal a lot of damage, negative. The opponents go negative a lot with a decent Craterhoof Behemoth, right? Because the trample, it just gets through. So isn't that cool art too? You have the woolly mammoths and the Craterhoof there in the top. Excuse me. So we love that, of course. In addition, you have a card that Nyxbloom Ancient, and obviously that's also just a wacky card, where your permanents are going to be producing 3 times the amount of mana that they usually do. What? Yes. And then you have this homie here, the Vorinclex, and similarly, your lands will tap for additional mana, and then when your opponent taps, I'll zoom back out so we can read all the text. And then when your opponents tap their mana, it actually locks it out for their next untap step. It's considered a game changer. I kind of get that. It's kind of a nasty card. Let's be honest. But hey, we got another card from Tarkir Dragonstorm that does a similar type of effect. And basically we just have to get some stuff in our graveyard. And this is going to also have like a similar, kind of payoff where we have this Songcrafter Mage. It's green, so we'll trigger Aragorn. And then when this enters, we can basically tap down Aragorn and fetch out a sorcery or instant from our graveyard that's already been put there, and then pay 9 into that generic mana, and just have the mana left over, hopefully on our battlefield, to pay the rest of the mana cost. So we can get into these massive X spells, and so that's kind of like the focus of this deck. Now it really all has to do with Roshin. Roshin kind of glues this deck together, and you're really going to want to emphasize your X spells. I think we have about 30 X spells, give or take, and I feel like that's appropriate. I think you need about 30 to make Roshin, because the milling is nice for Roshin. The 6 cards into your graveyard is insane already. Like the value, and so much value already, because we're going to be getting into that graveyard in general. And then also, of course, then we'll have X cards in our hand. We just go ahead and tap Roshin, add like a bunch of generic mana, 2 generic or colorless mana in this case, for each instance of X spells, so we can cast off some really big X spells. This is like big mana stuff. It's just like incredible. I don't know if there's like any other way I want to play Magic anymore. I feel like this is kind of like my, my limit, and I also wanted to make a point that these modern cards, they kind of go under the radar, but they're so extremely powerful. I don't know like how many people playtest these things, on the occasion, but they're pretty fairly common in like a Brawl format, because you have to understand in MTG Brawl, there's a pretty good card selection, but not like the selection that modern players have, or like players in MTGO have. They have access to all the different formats. Basically the collection is more diverse. And maybe a Roshin doesn't really get too much love in that, but a Roshin, like when this card first came out onto Arena in a Brawl format, this was like a hot shit. Like people were like, "Oh, Roshin, they were playing it a lot, and this card was slapping." It was like slapping, and it's 5 cents? What a deal! It's perfect for this commander. We get access to all the X spells, most of the ones that are really decent for the 4 colors. So, it's just kind of an easy slot in. So we can find Roshin. We're going to have, kind of a couple of different ways to find Roshin. But overall, even if we don't find Roshin, we're going to be doing pretty well for ourselves. So it's just like that, really like, ooh, that's just a nice one, maybe to get into later and be happy about it. But let's think about all the big spells that we can kind of like pay into, and, there's a lot of nice ones. Of course, Awaken the Woods is fantastic for some ramp to create some additional dryads and tokens. You have Crackle with Power, which is just a nice finisher. It's kind of easy to kind of get this one set up. Doppelgang is probably one of the stronger cards that we have in this particular deck. This really co-ops very well with Roshin. If you can pay, a couple instances of this, like 3 instances of this, 11 mana total, you can basically, copy 3 different permanents and make 3 different copies of it. That could be lands, that could be creatures. It's just really kind of just depends on what you're vibing with and what you need. So yeah, Doppelgang is a really fantastic. Electro Dominance is pretty decent overall. It's just kind of one that goes to the face and then gets us an additional cast. And we do like additional casts with Aragorn. It's just like kind of easy, like, payoffs just to have more casts. I cast this and then I get to cast something else from my hand. So usually that's when Aragorn is living its good life, is when you have like his spell is cast and then you get to cast another one, just because you trigger Aragorn twice. Finale. This one is just a nice kind of tutor-esque card. Also can just like be a big payoff for us in general. So this one also gives haste to the creatures too. So we just kind of like that one a lot. So just in like kind of another overrun type of effect. Can tutor up like a Crater Hoof, for instance, and kind of get really busy with the Finale. This card really surprised me, guys. Overall, Finale of Promise was the best card I play tested, and it wasn't really even close. I could basically, on any given sequence, I could like have a Swords to Plowshares or a Path to Exile. I could then have like a Malevolent Rumble on curve with Finale, and then I'm casting Finale for, X's 2, and then I'm getting those back and just getting like a large amount of value from it. It's just was just fantastic. I just loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I'm a big fan of Finale now. Big. 50 cents, guys. This is like a sweet card. Super sweet. Definitely got shadowed by this one, but that one's a nice one. Uralingus definitely dipped in price too. This was, like a $20 card for a long time. So, that one's also kind of a nice one. We can get some tokens going. We can get the Monarch and draw cards. We love it. Green Suns, this was kind of like a depressing one for me, but it is kind of essential for the deck, because it's going to just tutor like our sweet cards, and it's just like an easy X spell that's green. We love green X spells. Just any spell that's green in its color identity to give the 4/4 to Aragorn is where you want to be, right? Heliod's Intervention, just another like sneaky nasty card, right? Where it's just exiling artifacts or enchantments or gaining some life. Krasis is probably one of our weaker cards, but it is a creature and it does hit the board. So that's never too bad. It really isn't. I mean, you can always make like a big snake, hydra, jellyfish beast, whatever it is. You could do it. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's green too. Invasion of Ikoria, that's that battle that's also going to tutor up creatures. I think primarily you're going to be early game, finding your Bloom Tenders and such, your Fabro Elders, your Fanatic of Ronus. But then you could probably get into your Roshins for not too much mana investment, and then you can flip that thing and kind of get busy too. March of Otherworldly Light, this one actually I don't really love. So I was kind of like, kind of looking into some other kind of possibilities. But yeah, March of Otherworldly Light is not my fave. It's just because we're not playing so many white spells. It's just it's harder to get this one going. It doesn't hit Planeswalkers either, so that's kind of unfortunate. So, God, I was figuring that just like a Sphinx Revelation for some cards would be kind of sweet, to be honest. Just like kind of an easy way to kind of kind of invest some mana and just draw a bunch of cards. So let's get that one in. I think I've already tagged it too. Yeah, I was just kind of playtesting this a little bit more. You gain X life and draw X cards. That's fine. And it's an instant speed. So we do love that one. March of Sword of the Mist. This is one that definitely we love. We definitely love this one. Just a little protection. Can get offensive or defensive with that. You can phase your opponent's stuff out and your stuff all at once. Just depends on what you want to do. Mass Manipulation, I'm definitely going to try this one out. The 4 blue seems kind of nasty, but man, we can get busy with our mana dorks, and we have some really nice ones. Like the Bloom Tender, for instance, is very good. And then you have like your Fabro Elder kind of action. It's just, the mana seems fine, and we just have like a decent amount of triomes, so I'm not too worried about the Mass Manipulation. I'm going to see what happens though. But yeah, it's just kind of an interesting one, gaining control of your things, pouring a lot of generic mana into that just seems really interesting to me. And, getting control of some creatures and planeswalkers seems pretty interesting. Especially if you get like our opponents' commanders and such. Mawloc, this one is amazing, right? Where you can, you obviously want to get the X's 5 or more, but it could fight anyways. If you put in that 5 or not. So it's just a nice little interesting fight spell. It could trigger Aragorn and make it a little stronger. Maybe we'll get that card off of it. Maybe make a huge Mawloc. Who knows? Here's Meltdown, and this will destroy each artifact with mana value X or less. So we dig that. We kind of really dig like the artifact enchantment hate. Those type of decks hate us. Like, we're running Pest Infestation, Heliod's Intervention, Meltdown. All these X spells are really strong in terms of just mass oppressiveness to those artifacts and enchantments. Mockingbird, this is kind of a newer friend on the street, but just very versatile, Could like copy some of our mana dorks earlier in the game, can copy our opponent's sweet things. And it's an X spell, so we just kind of love to maximize our X spells. There's Pest Infestation. What a card. What a card that is. It's just, like, I really did something naughty to an opponent recently. It's just like, I think I took out the reality chip and something else all at once, and they had nothing. they had nothing, man. It was just a easy money, like, Sylvan Tutor into Bloom Tender, cast Aragorn, Pest Infestation, just, it was just awful for them. It was so sad. Primal Might, X-Spell will fight, make something a little bit stronger. You can pump, extra X into this one at sorcery speed, so that's an interesting one. Reap the Past, this one has definitely been kind of very interesting. The randomness is what really threw me off about this one. It's cool, though. I mean, we put cards into the grave. It's just basically like, pump into this, return cards from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, and usually your cards from your graveyard are pretty decent, the ones that you've already cast. So sometimes they can be lands. So you sometimes get lands off of this. It's just another really interesting card. Roshin, we already talked about Roshin. So obviously, just look at that sucker. Just reveal any number of cards with X in their mana cost in your hand. Add 2 colorless for each card revealed this way. Spend this mana cost. The only on costs that contain X. So we have lots of X spells. We have X spells so we don't brick when this card comes in. We want to get that X spell into our graveyard so we can fetch it back out, the one that we want. And then we want to also be having X spells in our hand. So there's a Shatter Skull Smashing. That's fantastic. Silver Scrutiny, just for some extra card advantage. Sphinx Regulation for more cards. We just love that. Syncopate, we'll rock it. Yeah, we'll rock the Syncopate. I'm not too sad about it. It's versatile. Same with Thassa's. It's just kind of an interesting one. You can get some cards, you can counter spells, kind of like hit all the buttons at once. Goose Mother, once again, this is fine. Just more X spells. Yeah, overall the deck came together pretty well. I think you'll dig this one, guys. I don't think you'll be sad about it. Tyvar Stand, yep. Yeah, that's a good X spell. Just indestructibility, hexproof, a little strong buff if we want to buff something else at instant speed. Maybe get in for that commander lethal. World Soul's Rays have been all-star. This thing just like takes something out and ramps us all at once. And then Wrath of the Skies is just like another kind of selective board wipe. So overall, that's kind of the main gist of the deck. And of course, we're rocking some graveyard payoffs. Obviously, we're going to be building the graveyard for various ways. Malevolent Rumble is an all-star. 68 cents, fantastic. Mizzet's Mastery, obviously very cool to get into our grave and, have a nice cast. And this is another card that demonstrates additional casts. Like, I cast this, I get Aragorn to no trigger, and then I get to go into my graveyard, take one of those spells, copy, and then cast that. So I get another cast for Aragorn. Snappy Boy, just why not? Snappy's going to get in there and, similarly have that similar effect as, I guess, our new Songcrafter Mage is Snappy at home, right? And guys, is this one actually broken? In Aragorn, not in standard, but in Aragorn, with these X spells, I think it could be better than Snapcaster. People are talking about it. You guys should look into this card. People are talking a lot about it. It's kind of going under the radar right now. But I mean, there's something here with this Nature's Rhythm in this Songcrafter Mage. There's something there, like a big teamer energy. If that's something you're into, this something might like it. And if you do like this, what you're seeing, please consider subscribe. I'd really appreciate it very much, guys. So yes, there's your Snapcaster Mage, of course, and then Treasure Cruise that we're going to delve. Remove cards, exile them from our graveyard to help pay for each of those. Each card we remove will pay for a generic mana cost. And so if you have 7 cards in your graveyard and you want to remove them all, you simply remove those and pay blue all at once while casting this. And you have a 1 mana blue spell that draws 3 cards. Who would have known? Who would have known? Okay, so I guess we're going to slide up the mana base here. I think we'll just turn this into a mana confluence too. You have to understand, I do take these decks from Brawl and then I add some upgrades as we go. And Mana of Confluence actually is on Brawl. I just didn't have it in there for whatever reason. But we do now. Our mana base looks really good. Just, some of the Verge lands, those have been playing very well. If you don't have the Verge lands, if you have the Commander lands I think they're also called Battle Bond lands. I think those would be sufficient, of course. I mean, they'll probably be better even than these. But these are cool for Brawl. So I'll just leave those in there. But so that's not too big of a deal. But I think it is important to kind of discuss at least like the triomes, amount of triomes you play and such in these decks. I would say that like 2 is pretty good. You probably only really need to play 1 though. To be honest, like because you have the surveil lands now, and those are very strong. The fact that they can be almost preferential because they can if you need to get to some more lands, for instance, if you want to hit lands on curve in the beginning of the game, you can. You have a better chance if you want to try to manipulate the top of your deck to increase those draws for whatever you want. And of course they build your graveyard too. So they're pretty key. They go really well with like World Soul's Rage. You could have like 2 surveils where you're just, maybe you're fetching this, so you're putting a fetch land in and then perhaps even surveilling another land in, getting your World Soul's Rage like really juicy. I think we have about 3 or 4 surveil lands, and I think that's kind of like where you kind of want to be. Commercial District is a surveil land. The Hedge Mage is a surveil land. Lush Portico is a surveil land. And let's see if I have any more. So 3 surveils. Yeah, that seems probably pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, so like 2, 2-ish, 1-ish triomes. We'll rock the 2s. The mana base has been very good. And, I do like to skew it towards the blue-green, to be honest. So in this particular one, the Sparrow's Headquarters and the Ketria, they seem to kind of, kind of enable the blue-green because we have like mana drain and a lot of green. So yeah, that's kind of like my thought process on the mana base. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is about that. Have our channel lands over here. So just like those beautiful Kamigawa channel lands, that land cycle is fantastic. These cards have lots of value still. Yep, they're all good, right? They're all decent. They all have their benefits. So we'll rock all the channel lands. We have 4 basics too, 1 of each represented. So that's sweet. And we also put in the little cool silhouette lands from Dragonstorm. Now we can kind of discuss the ramp package here. I do think obviously green has some of the better ramp, you could say. Obviously these creatures are just unbelievable. Like the Avacyn's Pilgrim will produce white. It really opens up your mana base for the 4 colors. Birds of Paradise for any type of color, fantastic. I mean, I suppose you could even like run the Hierarchs. I think that would probably even be an upgrade. So let's see how we're doing here. Yeah, I probably would just run the Noble Hierarch over that Pilgrim and just keep the other ones as is. Noble Hierarch. There she is. Yeah, that's a nice one. Just Bant colors. That's beautiful. We love it. And then Exalted, whenever creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets 1/1 until end of turn. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool little bonus there, huh, guys? What else do we have? So apart from that, this card is worth every penny that it is. $17. Yeah, I mean that's kind of your first choice off of a Worldly Tutor. You're, turn 1. Worldly Tutoring for this and, slamming this, and then you're really accelerating, right? Once you have a turn with Bloom Tender and Aragorn, you're just, going from pain, tapping for 1 to tapping to 4, and that's when you get into the big stuff. So you can see that you can even like kind of enable the X-Spells and make them even good too, That's kind of like the equalizer. Same thing with Favorite Elder. Obviously, the 1 mana cost is kind of a world's difference, but this one can also get in with Vigilance, and it kind of gets stronger for... becomes a 4/4 with Aragorn on the battlefield. So that's a nice little bonus there. Fanatic is probably goes hand in hand And I'd honestly think that if you want to like kind of gauge what your opponents are playing, on your commander night, I suppose if your opponents are playing like lots of red spells or maybe red commanders, you might be weary about tutoring for a Bloom Tender because of the low toughness, whereas the Fanatic kind of dodges Bolt and some other red removal. So I think that's kind of a per step basis on kind of how you want to plan that out. But obviously both are going to be very awesome. Bloom Tender or Fanatic they're just the best. Elysian Caryatid is similar to that. It's just going to have a nice little bonus for having Aragorn on the battlefield and having this on the battlefield. Cobra is fantastic. Abundance of fetch lands here. Has some really interesting cards like World Soul's Rage, Doppelgang, where you can copy lands. So Cobra is very interesting for acceleration. What a fantastic card in green. I feel like this is just like my new thing, is that Lotus, Cobra, and Nissa are like in all my decks, no matter if I'm playing landfall or not. These two here, yeah, this thing can like fetch up like elementals too, like your Nyxbloom Ancient. So that's interesting. That is interesting stuff, isn't it, guys? So yeah, we just kind of love both of those. There's the Hierarch, of course, Ragavan. But if you're not too familiar with these cards, basically they'll see lands come on the battlefield, and for each instance of a land entering, they'll add a color mana to your mana pool. Any color, too, which is great. And upon Nissa, on that second land, you get to fetch an Elf or Elemental. Ragavan. Yeah, Ragavan doing Ragavan things. Getting in, doing some damage. Getting us a treasure. Getting us a look at a card. Fantastic. Utopia Sprawl. Yep. We love it. Just change one of our sweet little forest type cards and produce an additional color mana of anyone we like. It's fantastic. And then Vadrik. This card is absolutely balm in this deck. I swear, like, you just get like this perfect storm of things, and you're casting green spells and getting Vadrik up to like 9 power, and then basically you're storming off with your X spells. You're creating like a situation where if you have a decent amount of mana to deal with, just colored mana, you can basically have this Vadrik, which is discounting all these spells like significantly. Like Vadrik power is now 10 or 9. A 9, 10. So now we can make 9 Forest Dryad tokens here for just 2 green mana, and then we cast that, and it's going to make him a little bit stronger. And now we can cast a Crackle with power. We can dump like that X will be 4. We reach that criteria, right? Like nearly, I believe. And then all of a sudden, like you're hitting 4 targets for 20 damage. Like each. Or you're doppelganging for like God knows what, like who knows. So like this guy is just nuts. He's just crazy with Aragorn, and we love it. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Let's take a look at a hand or two. All of that looked good. That hand before it had some sweet mana too. We can't hold this one though. Yeah, this is the hand, guys. This is like all the goodies. I mean, you have Fanatic here. You're going to get into your Aragorn. You have the Rumble. You can make a big Krasis. You can kind of get back into your Snap. It's just, the Snapcaster with the Rumble. It's just like kind of amazing stuff. So, this looks good here. Just this here, Surveil. Like, we would have drawn that for turn. We would have Surveilled. Probably keep the Syncopate. Why not? Some more counter magic, get into this Fanatic here. Yeah, this is kind of like the familiar play line where fetch up a blue land here is fine. You're going to cast Aragorn here, no doubt. And now, on your next turn, you're going to have like an abundance of mana. So you could actually, with this kind of 8 mana here, you could actually get into the Nyxbloom if you wanted to, and you could, cast either the. See, could you hold up mana? You could probably hold up mana too for your Syncopate. Maybe hold, because this is 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and this can tap for 2 or 3. So your Syncopate's not terrible, is it? And that's just a really good start. I mean, what are you going to do about that, guys? What are you going to do? And look at this on the flip end. We got this Krasis with the Nyx bloom. And we're about to do some really naughty things to things. Malevolent Rumble. I'm curious, like, what we're going to get. Yeah, like a Worldly Tutor. Yeah, you get the permanent card, but we have the Snapcaster for that tutor, you know. Just some really nasty things going on here, guys. So, yeah, that's kind of the sweetness there, that's for sure. Let's do one more. It seems interesting. The Surveillance are interesting here. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine, though. The Green Sun is really powerful, isn't it? I mean, we definitely want to get like a Bloom Tender with that, I suppose. Do we want this? Yeah, you probably want the X spells. You probably want them. I think we're going to Rumble here. Hey, we got the Bloom Tender. It's pretty sweet. Or the Nissa. This is pretty good. We don't have any of the, you know, the fetch lands to go with it. Ooh, yeah, we're going to keep that Mirari's Wake like 9 times out of Sunday. This card is just fantastic. I can't get over this deck. It just makes me so happy that I built this thing. Kind of put everything together here, guys. All the happy things in your life. You know, Mirari's Wake. You just got to have it, right? You got to do it. You got to do this, guys. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. You're just doubling this mana up. It's just crazy. That's just kind of whacked out stuff, you know. You just got to do it. You just got to have that kind of stuff going on. I kind of like this play, and then you can hold up your Bloom Tender with your March and protect your stuff. This syncopates in these marches have looked really, really nice, actually. So I'm very pleased, guys. I'm really pleased with how this deck is looking. And, you know, this Vadric is also kind of a bomb in itself. And we have these crazy X spells here. We could basically just tutor up probably a win. Some sort of win here. We probably have it. Just because you have Vadric here. You have like this, a lot of colored mana at once. So you could probably go into like a Mirari's Wake, for instance. And then like cast like a Vadric. And then like kind of start discounting your green spells and tapping down Aragorn and tutoring up like Vorinclex, you know, any of the Vorinclexes or Nyx Bloom Ancients, and just really getting busy. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Let me know what you're doing right now and what you're building, and what cards from Dragonstorm do you like, because for me, this set is a home run. These cards have really like kind of spurred my interest and got Aragorn really kind of where I want it. I'm definitely like interested in like, you know, purchasing some of these cards on some of the marketplace. That they're just kind of more niche cards that I just don't really have like readily available. But I have kind of built a X-Spell deck before for Aragorn, and I cannot wait to show this one to you all. I think Omnath is next. Omnath, Locus of All is kind of, I think I'm skipping Snap decks because Omnath kind of just takes the Snapdax cards and kind of puts it together. I definitely want to do like a Mardu, like Death Touch deck eventually with the Ring Wraiths, because they have seemed to have got a lot of support too for like something like that, like a Death Touch tribal. So I want to kind of maybe look at that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on. So hope you all have a good day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.